Hello,
And welcome to our podcast, Wine with
Shelley.
and Shelly.
We are two women passionate about supporting those affected by cancer. Our businesses are dedicated to providing resources and community for people navigating this challenging journey.
Whether you're a cancer survivor, caregiver, or just looking for information, we've got you covered.
On this podcast, we'll be diving into a wide range of topics from the latest research and treatments to practical tips for coping with the emotional and physical challenges of cancer.
We'll also be sharing inspiring stories, interviewing experts, and exploring the latest trends in cancer care.
Join us as we navigate this journey together.
Let's get started. We want to welcome you back to the podcast. I want to make a toast to Shelley.
Welcome back to Wine with Shelley and Shelly. We're happy to have you all back. We have some really great updates. We've been working tirelessly for months on some big projects, on some fundraising efforts. We have a Spark Road Rally. We have a phenomenal golf outing coming up. And we also have a really exciting Sparkling Survivor Calendar Girls project we've been working on.
Yes.
Woo! These ladies are sparkling, spicy, beautiful, and they're embracing their new selves. And we are pretty excited to have that roll out as well.
So, Shelley, what does that mean? Their new selves.
Well, new selves, I mean, you go through cancer and you have a new body, you have a new mind, you have new hair, new eyebrows, new eyelashes, and sometimes you have new body parts in general. So we created a fun Sparkling Survivor calendar, and these ladies have embraced their new norm for now, and they are showing off in front of all sorts of vehicles that will be at our Spark Road Rally. So stay tuned for those items because we're pretty excited about that product. And the women had a great time at this event.
It was a very powerful event. And I do have to say, centerfolds, you have nothing on these girls. It was an amazing experience to go through. It was wonderful to hear the experiences of each individual, how they would never do anything like this in their life, how intimidated they were. But by the end, you could just see their self-confidence growing and they felt beautiful. So we are excited to roll out those calendars. Very excited to be back here with you today. The day-to-day life of a nonprofit inundates us with lots of tasks we don't necessarily enjoy doing, but we have to. But this is something coming back to the basics, connecting with people is what it's all about. So with that, we have some special guests to share with you.
We sure do. We're pretty excited about these guests. Put your seatbelts on, kids, because we're going to have a topic that isn't talked about much, but we're really excited about it because it's something that we really need to be able to talk about. And we're excited to have these guests on board with us.
So without further ado, let's introduce our next guests.
So let's welcome our wonderful guests. We have here... Excited about this. This is way too much for me to handle. We have Gina L. Maxwell, and she is a New York Times bestselling author. And boy, does she have a mind like no other. And I'm very impressed with. Not only that, she has a beautiful voice and can sing like an angel. I'm not kidding you. Not kidding you. So tell us a little bit about what you do, Gina.
So yes, my name is Gina L. Maxwell. I have proof here. I'm an author.
Real.
This is my most recent release, The Vicious King. It released in July. It's my 19th book. I am New York Times, USA Today, and a #1 international bestselling author. I beat out Dan Brown in Italy back in 2012, and it's like what I hang my hat on. It was probably all of 5 seconds, but it was a really great 5
Celebrate
seconds.
it.
Yes,
Absolutely.
5
seconds.
Congratulations.
Are you kidding me? I had been like,
raise a glass.
raise a glass. Cheers
Thank
to
you.
you. Congrats on that.
Excellent.
That's beautiful. Beautiful work.
But so yeah, I'm an erotic romance author. I do a lot of contemporary romance as well as like this series, which is paranormal urban fantasy romance. I I delve a lot into the spicier side of things, but there's still a lot of plot. There's still a lot of heart. I've been doing this for 14 years now, and over the course of my publishing career, I've received a lot of messages and emails from readers who, the stigma against the romance genre is so strong in our society, especially our Western culture, that it's looked at as trite, or they call it trash or smut, things of that nature. But in a billion-dollar industry where it's written primarily by women for women, these are strong characters and they overcome a lot, and they learn about how to embrace their sexuality and embrace their desires and their needs and communicate that to their partners. So that's really one of the favorite things I have about my job is I actually hate writing itself, but I love having written, and I love the impact that I have, the positive impact I have on my readers' lives when they learn things, or they learn to be a little bit more graceful with themselves, and to love themselves and their bodies, and think that their sexual desires are okay. So that's my favorite part.
I love that. I love that
do
so much.
too.
And what a way to share that with the world, literally. It's unbelievable. I can't even believe I'm sitting here with you right now.
Oh, stop. We went to high school together.
We worked each other for way too long, but it's so, it's just one of those things that you grow up and you see people's gifts. And I was always like, oh, Gina, she can sing like an angel. She's going to go and she's going to sing. No, instead she's impacting the world in a whole different light. And it's actually just as powerful, if not more powerful, just by using her mind and sharing with women that it's okay to have those adventures in your mind. Embrace those adventures. That makes you human.
Yeah.
It's okay to think like that. And we just traditionally have been just like, nope, that's not how you do it. Let's fit you in a box.
Yeah.
We don't fit in a box.
No.
We are all different shapes and sizes, and we should be able to embrace that. And I just love that you can take us on an adventure. And woo,
Absolutely. Well, I'm an outsider. I did not go to high school with you, but I love you already.
Thank you, Shelley.
And I haven't been introduced, but I'm here to say that worth the read.
yes,
Yeah, I converted her.
Yes.
That is terrible. Let's introduce our other guest.
Next guest is Christine Hopkins, and boy, oh boy, if you don't know who she is, you need to find out, because this is another profession that we just don't hear about. It's not something that's just out and about in the world, and so we'd like to introduce Christine Hopkins to everybody, because it's kind of a combo effect. You'll see why we put these two together. Watch out, everyone.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm Christine Hopkins. I work under my coaching business called The Intuitive Unraveling. I am a shadow integration coach and sensuality coach. So I actually studied female sexuality, and through the process of diving into my own sexuality, I learned that a lot of emotions and parts of us live inside of our sexual selves that we have pushed away, repressed, shamed. And I had the opportunity to study my own sexuality. And through that process, I really met deep, deep parts of myself. My goal is to support women in meeting all parts of themselves, their sexual selves, maybe parts of themselves that they're ashamed of that has nothing to do with sexuality, maybe parts of themselves that are hard to feel, hard to experience. I am the person that can hold you through the process of meeting those parts of yourself.
Amazing.
Christine, can you tell us a little bit more about shadow integration? What exactly does that mean?
Yes, good question. Good question. So the shadow is a part of us that we either deny, repress, push away, pretend doesn't exist, whatever, fill in the blank. And that part of us really, really, really affects the way we move through our everyday life. The shadow this is the way that I describe it. We've all heard of the word manifestation, right? It's super trendy, a really big topic right now, specifically in the spiritual community. I think a lot with women. If we believe that we can manifest with our conscious self, and we do the studies and we learn how much of us like how much of our conscious brain is at work when we are making our decisions and how much of our subconscious brain is at work when we're making our decisions, we are really doing ourselves a disservice by ignoring the parts of us that live deep, deep, deep down. We talked about trauma, or we will be talking about trauma, and trauma is often something that can cause us to separate ourselves from these parts of us. So women specifically, all people, but women specifically, just because of the society that we live in, are often very detached and pushed away from that part of them. So I didn't necessarily go into my shadow integration work with the intent, or I didn't go into the sexuality work with the intention of landing in shadow work. But my sexuality was the place that I discovered my shame. It was the place that I unearthed pieces of me that I was completely unwilling and not capable of seeing.
So interesting.
Yeah, it is.
It's very
so interesting. And it's real. It's actually when I just had these two for coffee and I was like, wait till these planets collide. Oh my God. I was like, this is going to be amazing to introduce to the world, to introduce to any of our listeners, because this does go with everybody. But when we're dealing with cancer, that is a huge, huge trauma. But then you have all these underlying traumas that already came with you. Right. So now is an opportunity, if you choose to make an opportunity, to open yourself up to the possibilities. It doesn't have to be all this, I'm losing this, and this. Wait a minute. Yes, we have losses and we have to deal with that. But also it's an opportunity to become authentically ourselves, to embrace these pieces of us, whether we're going to live with cancer or maybe we're going to die of cancer. It's still an opportunity to learn and grow, because if we have not learned and grown, we're not living. Yep. We have to continue to learn and grow in different areas. And this is one huge area that we hardly touch on.
Well, I think it's time for our #1 best-selling author to read a snippet.
Oh, man. All right.
Hot and heavy.
I am doing this under duress. This is in Finian's point of view. They are in a sex dungeon, and she's wearing lingerie that he picked out for her, and it's all very steamy. So yeah, okay, here we go. I can do this without laughing. Taryn leaves me breathless. She stands confidently in her elegant lingerie, her body on display for me with her legs bound in the rope stockings. The matching collar is merely decorative. It doesn't hold the sacred meaning that signifies ownership in this community, but I'm glad she's wearing it. The possessiveness I feel for her wouldn't bode well for anyone requesting I share her for their enjoyment. The way she moves, the way her skin flushes with arousal is driving me insane. She's a vision of sensuality and submission. She is a goddess, and I would happily worship at her altar as she deserves. I step closer, my hands brushing over her bound thighs, tracing the lines where flesh meets nylon. Her eyes, half-lidded and filled with need, meet mine, and I see my desire reflected back at me. Tonight, Solnishko, you belong to me, I growl possessively. You are mine to bind, mine to pleasure, mine to care for. Isn't that right? She bites her lower lip, the hint of a smile telling me she's fighting the urge to let her usual strong-willed personality respond. I hold her gaze in the mirror, and though she can't see the expectant arch of my eyebrow behind my mask, I'm certain she knows it's there. I am yours to do with as you will, sire. A satisfied groan rumbles in my chest at hearing those words tumble from her soft lips. Good girl, you've earned a reward.
Is there any wonder why she is a #1 best-selling author?
Still gay.
Holy hotness.
I have one of those too, Sean. It's called Lost in Darkness, and it's my favorite book I've ever written.
Ooh.
It's Captain Hook and Jonathan Darling.
All I'm going to say is buy the audiobook and listen to it with your partner.
Yeah. This one's not an
Absolutely.
audio yet, but it will be. But the other two, the first two in the series are they're good. Yeah.
Now, for you, those of you listening to the podcast, my jaw is down to the table going, oh my God. It's okay. It's beautiful. I love the way your mind works.
Yes.
And you put it to paper for others to read and embrace and enjoy.
Beautiful prose.
Wow.
Just
I work really hard at it. Yeah.
elegant.
And she hates writing.
Well, I hate the process of writing. I love telling the story. I love editing. That's my favorite part of the process is the editing. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the writing, the first draft is really, it's difficult. So
Yes.
Which leads me to say that at some point, we're going to have a lot more folks that want to be a part of what we're doing, because truly, we can't do this alone.
yes.
We, as in Shelley and Shelly, need to be out there with the people doing what we're actually intended to do and what our gifts are to do with people.
Yes.
And so down the road, we're really looking for supporters, people that are passionate about changing people's lives like we are. And, you know, we are doing all the pieces, we're wearing all the hats, but down the road, we're definitely going to be searching out some more supporters that are saying, hey, you know what? I'm good at this. Let me help you to keep going with what our mission is, because we are here to help you, the viewers and the listeners. And so down the road, we really, really are looking for supporters, as we've talked about in the past.
And just short commercial break. We are looking for sponsors. So if you like what we're doing, if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more of it, please consider being a sponsor for our podcast. And now I want to switch gears
Uh-oh.
and go back to Christine.
Hot.
Yeah. So, what kind of stigmas around women's sexuality do you see? And, you know, can they heal after a cancer journey?
Yeah, that's a big question. That's a really big question. I think that you could probably throw out any insecurity or any problem as made up as you think that it could be. And I promise you, it has probably crossed through a woman's brain. Unfortunately, the way that women are conditioned, it's almost like we have these two paths to follow. It's the pornography path of put on a show, please, right? It's more performative. Or there's the kind of good girl shame. I'm going to repress and I don't have a sexuality. Those are the two paths that I generally see come forward with women who are unpacking things as it relates to sexuality. Now, when you think about a cancer diagnosis and you think about all of the ways that that can affect your sexuality, it can affect the patient, but it can also really affect the partner.
Yes.
And I just, like, if you guys don't mind, I just want to share a story. So both of my parents passed away this year. My dad passed away from prostate cancer after a 16-year journey. And my mom actually passed away the day that we found out that he was no longer treatable. It's a really wild story.
Oh, well,
Truly like a love, you know, like a love story. It's a beautiful love story. Anywho, you know, my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer at 55.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know the treatment for prostate cancer, and you guys know the side effects of those treatments, right? And obviously, I'm not here to put my parents' business on display, but my mother really, really had a hard time with the product of the treatments that were keeping her husband alive. And there was a great deal of emotion of like, there's this part of me that feels grief and sadness and anger and why won't you do this one thing to make it so that we could do, right? There's so much inside of there. And so I just wanted to say that out loud because, you know, we do have people's bodies that are being altered, but we also have the support system that is affected as well. And so the sexuality is just such a huge space that we overlook.
And I think it's important for people to understand that there's, pardon the expression, but more than one way to skin a cat, right? Like if something is being affected in your body by treatment or by the cancer, like there are so many ways to be sexual with your partner or intimate with your partner. And it's not just like, peg A fits into slot B.
It's not black and white.
Exactly.
It's not
And I
black and
think
white.
that's where exploring desires, communicating with each other, and doing your own research. Like what else is out there? What can we do together that will work for us and still be allowed to connect on that level, because it's so important. That's not traditional or in that box that we've, been taught to stay in.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Because
So
now
much,
you're
yes.
changed. So you have to
Right.
change with that.
Yeah.
And that's real. I mean, there's so many avenues that are affected. And I personally can speak of that, like going from you can feel your chest to now you can't any longer feel your husband's chest against your chest.
And that's not just
That's a
not just
closeness.
feeling like this. It's feeling the warmth of the
Yes,
skin. It's
yes.
feeling
All of that.
connection. It's feeling heartbeat. It's
Mhm.
feeling there's so much that happens when two bodies touch in that
Yes.
way.
And that gets stripped because now that is no longer there. I mean, we don't talk about the cold boobs. We don't talk about the women that are even flat that now all their nerves have been severed. And so there's a lot of like that touching piece that you have to relearn where it is that you can feel. And that's real. That is actually happening to women all over the place. And I'm sure with men, there's things that are also severed with different surgeries that all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's gone. So now what else can you touch to feel that closeness again and relearning the things that you used to have together? That is
It's a
real.
re-exploration.
It's like you started at ground one. You're like
Yep.
kindergartners in sex class. It's no lie.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
really are. You're just brand new at your new self.
And I think even if you were to take that one step further and take it beyond just the, peg A into slot B, there are real emotions that come up alongside all of that. And back to the shadow work, right? We are trained that hard emotions, we should run from them.
Right.
You're sad, you're angry, don't feel that. But
Yeah.
what I want everyone to hear is that the minute you cap your ability to feel the hard stuff, you are capping your ability to feel the good stuff.
Yes.
And so that is where being witnessed and supported in those emotions and in those hard things can become really beneficial, because feeling over here is just as, if not more important than feeling over here.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
So, Christine, I have two burning questions
Oh.
for you.
Burning.
I can't wait.
The first question is, is this a myth or is this truth? It seems to me that in a heterosexual type of relationship, you always have the women who say they're barely getting warmed up and then it's over with. Sorry, guys.
I'm sorry.
but-
I'm sorry. I'm so mature. I'm so mature. but
However,
it's-
so
it's true.
is that just a myth? Is that just in women's mind, or is there some reason
Yeah.
to explain that?
That's a really good question. Thank you. So I think that comes back to conditioning. I think that, again, back to, I was talking about, you have your performative sexual experiences and then you have shame-filled sexual experiences. So I think a lot of times women are unable to speak. Actually, let me take a step. I don't want to blame men. Sometimes women don't even know what they like.
we need to learn that.
Yes.
So that's
Let's
the thing.
start there.
Like, let's back up.
Yeah, let's
Let's
back
back up. We
I don't
have
wanna
to
start-
learn it
Right.
Right.
to be able to tell our partner.
Correct. Correct.
That's the key.
So
That's
the real key is we, for whatever reason, don't know what we like, or maybe we know what we like, but we don't have the strength inside of ourselves to speak it out loud and ask for it. So whatever the reason might be, yes, it is something that a lot of people run into, that a woman does not have proper warm-up time, right? A man is like lighting a fire and a woman is like boiling water.
And great analogy.
That is a really good analogy.
It's perfect. She's like, let's go to page 110 and I'll tell you a story. I'll read you a story about that being true.
So women, you need to read a chapter of the book.
Correct. Here, this is what I always say is, men traditionally do not read, or heterosexual men traditionally do not read romance novels, right? But like, these are literal blueprints for what women want, right?
Would you just get the guide of Gina L, Maxwell,
Any
every one of them?
Like, but guys don't read instructions, right? So that's why, oops, sorry about that. That is why they're like, a lot of them are clueless. But here's what you can do, women, is if you're finding romance novels where you're like, I am into this.
This is fantastic.
And then you just bookmark that.
Yeah.
Right? You bookmark those pages and you're like,
basically your whole book.
Yes.
Her entire
if you
book
have a hard
series.
time communicating it yourself,
Correct.
That is another way that you could do it.
That's true.
Also,
That's true,
though,
because you give them the ideas.
I do find, though, that sometimes women will closet read these books.
Absolutely.
And maybe, look at, I'm like holding on to it.
It's like the Bible of
You can have it if you want.
I'm going to slide this into my purse. Slide that in the slut beat. Anyways.
I've never had that happen with one of my books.
I told you this was going to be a fun one.
It sure
Anyways, but women, like, there is fear in owning the fact that, hey, maybe I like the idea of you
Doing X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
doing something that is a little confusing to me. And guess what? We don't create spaces. Like, how often have you had a thought, a fantasy, an idea, and been like, that sounds kind of nice. But then also we're like,
Yep.
how would I
Put the
make
brakes
that
on.
happen? How would I ask for that? What would they think about me? Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could call your girlfriend up and be like, have you ever done this? It popped in my head and I'm curious. And it wasn't met with, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah.
Shock
Ew.
or horror
Ew,
or
you're-
You're a
Like,
slut.
you're a slut. That was something ingrained like a long time ago. It's like, no. It's no different than actually just as perverted as the male.
Yeah.
Well,
We just don't have an opportunity to let that out.
can I say this to you in a very science way?
It's secret.
But in a very science way, what I want to say to you is that we have an entire system, an entire science system that controls our sexuality.
I love
Right?
that. Yeah.
So from a science perspective, we have testosterone, estrogen, we have a whole freaking system, a reproductive system that is created to be sexual.
Right.
Like, there is a biological, scientific reason, ladies, that 14 days after you get your period,
I mean, the
maybe you
cavemen
could-
had to figure it out somehow, right?
correct, right?
Right. It was
So,
already happening.
There was
yes.
no manuals or romance novels back then. So.
Right. So, but my point is like, we are sexual people, but we disconnect from that part of ourselves.
And then it gets more complicated because then if you're in the cancer world, they suppress hormones and they remove ovaries. So then you don't have a lot of estrogen. You might be creating some in the pituitary, but you're not going to get the same as when you had ovaries. And yet, how do we retrain the mind? Because the mind is still the most powerful tool.
Absolutely.
I will say that from this day forward till
Absolutely.
the cows come home. Mindset work. This is all related to how your care how your adventure in your cancer journey can be supported. And it's not just about sexuality. This is just a piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
It's mindset. It's really getting to know yourself and starting to date yourself a little bit. Dating yourself, take everybody out, because now you're in your cancer journey and you are you, and you're getting to know yourself, and it's an opportunity to get to know yourself. So that way you can share that piece of a need that you might need, and it's going to change, it's going to shift, it's going to evolve. You may lose your hormones, but your mind is still there. I don't care if they took my ovaries, they took your ovaries, they took whatever. We still have our minds, and our mind is the most powerful tool that we have.
Absolutely.
And if we don't learn to use that, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So that's the key. It's getting into the mind of the ladies. It's helping them unlearn what we have learned through society, and how can we help heal through the different modalities that exist.
Yeah.
So Christine, my second question for you is, you told us that sexuality can be a guide to transformation. How can sexuality be a tool to do the work?
So if you listen to anything that I write, any content I create, pleasure is such an important thing to me. And I want to step back and say that sexual pleasure is what I'm talking about here. But there's a lot of people out there who are like, you know what, for whatever reason, I'm not available to stimulate my body in that way. You can use pleasure as medicine in any way, shape, or form. So as I'm talking about this, I would just love people to invite people to consider the word sensuality instead of sexuality. Because as it relates to our sexuality, consent is the most important tool that we can use to create safety inside of our bodies. And so if we force ourselves to do something sexually to ourselves that our body isn't a full yes to, we are actually, like taking away from the safety inside of our system. So I just want to lead with that first, because consent is number one. But I lead people on something called pleasure practices. And I want to just like give a pause so that people could fill in the blanks in their own head.
Yeah.
But a pleasure practice is exactly as it sounds. It is a guided masturbation session.
Yeah, something else that was dirty and gross. Or so we were informed to do.
So I like to tell people that a pleasure practice is like, if you were to think of stretching to yoga, a pleasure practice is masturbation to pleasure practice, right? We could sit here and we can touch our toes and we could say that we're stretching. But the minute you walk into a yoga class, you're creating the space, you're creating intention, you are creating connection, you are slowing down, and you are connecting to your body. And so a pleasure practice that I provide people is a 20 to 30 minute meditative type setting. I do this for people over Zoom. So this is not something that folks have to come in and like masturbate in front of me. This is, a recording that one would receive. But essentially it is training people to slow down and to touch their bodies, to connect with their bodies in that 45-minute, right? In that slow warm up kind of way. We're all busy people. And for that reason, I hear so many people say, like, when I have a need that I want to meet, give me a couple minutes, give me my vibrator. Give me a couple minutes and I'm good. But your sexual energy is actually the most potent energy that you can create inside of your body to use. And so you can do it with intention, you can do it with slowness, and you can do it in a way that is sending that pleasure to the cells inside of your body. So that trauma that we talked about, how that trauma lives in your body, pleasure lives in your body just the same. So we can be inside of the trauma and we can talk about, this terrible thing that happened to us, and let's not take away from that. Like, that is super important, but let's simultaneously celebrate our bodies and bring pleasure with intention. right? So back to, you have to feel the hard stuff to feel the good stuff, right? Like you also have to feel the good, like you have to let yourself feel the good stuff, and you have to let yourself stretch that capacity. That is how I use pleasure to support people through transformation.
Amazing.
Thank you. That is incredible. In here.
I'm gonna just real quick. I'm
take
gonna
off
real
all
quick
your
tell you. Imagine. So I did this in my program. Imagine being on a retreat with 100 women using pleasure as medicine and manifestation under the full moon of the summer solstice in
That's
Costa
the
Rica.
witchiest, wonderfulest
In
thing I've ever
Costa
heard.
Rica.
First of all, take me to Costa Rica and I'll do whatever the heck I want to
I'll do anything.
Anything. Okay, time
under
out.
the moon.
We have to make sure, Shelley, that, our audience on this podcast, they're going to want to know more information. So for each of you, please tell us how they find you.
Go first. I feel like you're probably much simpler to find.
Yeah,
as an Amazon or New York Times bestseller.
Gina.
Yes, you can just Google my name or search me on Amazon. All of my books are available on Amazon. Some of my books are available on other sites as well. But yeah, GinaLMaxwell.com is also my website. So you can find all of and feel free to stalk me on social media.
Slides right into what you guys are offering.
The holidays
right
are
in.
coming and people are always looking for
Oh,
gifts.
yeah, absolutely.
Let's get
All right.
smarter about the gifts this year, people.
Yes. Let's just not buy something to buy something.
Right. And Christine, where do we find you?
I was gonna say I could send you a whole slew of spicy gift ideas if anyone wanted them. So
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
So I coach under the business name The Intuitive Unraveling. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My website is theintuitiveunraveling.com. I got very creative there. But I also just want to mention that I actually have a Facebook group that is a daily journaling prompt. And so I post every single day a question. I should say Monday through Friday. I post a question for the people in my group. Some people post and reply back. Some people message me on the side and tell me about their responses. And some people just do it in the privacy of their home. But I have a Facebook group, which you can access through my website. So that is the easiest way to work with me on a
Personal level and more.
Yeah.
And do you
More
only
intimate.
work with women or do you work with men as well?
Oh, can I actually tell you that I find working with men so intriguing because of, some of the things that we've talked about of assuming. I think that women are trained to assume bad things about men. And so I've had the opportunity to work with men who desire to be vulnerable, who desire to connect with themselves on a more emotional and spiritual level. So I do work with both men and women.
Yep.
And do you work with just heterosexual couples? Do you work with...
So the bulk of my experience has been with heterosexual couples, or people in heterosexual relationships, I should say. Like I work with people individually. So that is the bulk of my background, but I am trained to support people of all genders.
Okay. Wonderful.
Wonderful. It's such a great resource that more people have to know exists. So we're excited to have you guys aboard and just sharing what your gifts are because it's real. It's something beyond cancer, but just in general that we really definitely have to address. So
Gina, this is specifically for you, but Christine, please chime in as you have thoughts as well. Storytelling in cancer. So how can literature and books and the imaginative side of us, as Christine, you have pointed out, help us tune into our bodies and our minds?
Good question. So there's such a broad spectrum in romance books. There's dozens and dozens of subgenres. And I know that there's actually books out there that deal with chronic illnesses and disabilities, cancer surviving, all sorts of things. So there's, no matter what genre you like, whether it's thrillers or comedy or, any of that, you can find it in romance, within the romance umbrella. And even if you don't want to focus on something like that, if you want just something in general or something lighthearted or whatever, there's all sorts of levels of spice as well. So there's something for literally everyone. And once you find what you like, if you're not a big reader with your eyes, there's audiobooks. They're amazing.
Wonderful.
When you find narrators that you really like, an audiobook is like, and now they're doing graphic audios even for like fantasy books and stuff, where it sounds like a movie with your eyes closed. Like they've got sound effects and all this other stuff, but there's, again, still the romance aspect in that. And so when women, especially, we are very mental creatures, right? The men are the visuals, the women are the mental. And when you read these stories and you put yourself in that heroine's position and you put yourself in this story, what they're experiencing, we too experience. And so I think when Shelley was talking about, once you've had the hormones, a lot of your hormones removed and your body is no longer, that sexual system is no longer firing like it should, or like what it's supposed to, I think our brain is where that can take over and like just prop that system up, right? And I think the mental aspect of desire for women is more powerful than the physical. I don't know if anybody else here or listening has experienced this, but women have wet dreams the same as men do. I can't tell you how many times I've had an orgasm in my sleep without any touching. Like there's no touching, but in my dream, I'm having sex. And just with that mental aspect of it, I'm able to, climax. Like that is amazing. Like in an energy aspect.
Energy, orgasm.
Energy is
yes,
everything.
Exactly. So like there's so much there. And I think that the books allow you to feel a sort of freedom, right? That it's like that gateway
Open your mind.
from the shame and the repressions that we face within ourselves from society, and then being able to communicate and openly think about it and accept it. I believe it's the stepping stone, the gateway into being able to do that. In fact, I have a book that's literally called Shameless, and the entire book is the hero teaching the heroine how to not hide what her desires are, to be shameless, to embrace the things that are taboo or, not thought of as strictly vanilla and things of that nature. So I think it's such an important thing for us. And I think by using our imaginations and our mental capacity and our energy is how we do that and how we can help heal and grow.
I want to just emphasize the very important point that you brought up so often. And Shelley, you've personally experienced this, and, other people who are affected by cancer talk about how they don't have the concentration, the focus anymore. So reading a book sometimes is extremely difficult, but listening to it, and then especially in the technology age that we live in, to have that cinema experience.
Yes.
That imagery is so important. So we are not limited to
just reading.
And it's sometimes hard to find the time to just sit down, right?
Yep.
I listen to my audiobooks while I'm cleaning, while I'm driving, while I'm going for walks, like mowing the lawn. Like, don't, there's like, the neighbor's like, hey, and you're like, hey,
this neighborhood are mowing the lawn.
Let's see,
What
my
is
ears is
happening?
completely
My
unokay
question-
with the public.
My question is it a riding lawnmower?
It'd be a lot more fun if it was. Yeah.
So can I really quickly? So I really quickly want to science you on that, because that's a lot of really amazing things that you just said. But again, let's come back to the shame. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to be like, I could read, I don't know, anything else besides sex, right?
Yeah.
But I also want to say for just 1 minute, if we think about the science of our nervous system and we talk about anxiety and we talk about, you scroll social media and you see things that are like, how do I tell my brain that me being afraid and anxious to go in the grocery store isn't the lion chasing me, right? So what is that? Like, I just want to point out that you are creating a space for somebody to read a story, to read a book, and for them their nervous system to get lost away from the chaos, away from the fear, away from shit that one feels when they are faced with a diagnosis. So if I have 15 minutes that I can read, what are their names again?
In here?
Yeah.
Finian and Taryn.
So if I have 15 minutes that I could read about Finian and Taryn and I could escape into their love story and I could imagine that for myself and I could imagine my body to feeling those amazing sensations and I can imagine those things, that is nervous system magic.
Yeah, I actually have an entire line called Steamy Shots, and they're in between a short story and a novella, but you can probably finish them in 30 to 60 minutes. And so it's the tagline for that is get in, get off, and get on with your life. Like they're super steamy, they're super short for those.
But just a quick story.
Like on your lunch break or like, while you're in the car line waiting for the kids. Like just...
Why are you doing another lunch break? Why are you on another lunch break?
Right, yeah, exactly.
She's on another lunch break.
I gotta take a smoke break. You don't even smoke. Shut up.
Never you mind.
You do your thing.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our time today.
I'm sorry, everyone. Every good thing has to end, right?
If you're listening to this podcast and you just can't get enough, like Shelley and I, make sure you comment and let us know that we should have these two guests back. But I wanted to give you both an opportunity to just share any final thoughts. Yes. What would you like to leave us with?
I would just like to say that if you've never read a romance novel, give it a shot. Yeah. You can even read like the like on Amazon, you've got like a couple of chapters that you can read as a sample before you're even, like having to buy it or whatever. Just give it a shot. Find an author that you like. Find a genre that you like. See how it opens up your mind.
Little taste test.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And now we know that we can get lunch hour
steamy shots. Yeah.
Lunch hour steamy shots. So that's a good
Kindle
place
cookies
to start.
is what I like to call
Ooh, I love it.
Well, I'm taking away that we can get lunch hour steamy shots and pleasure practices.
Yes. I think the thing that I would just want to leave with everybody is if you think that you are above this work or you are not interested or my sexuality it's not important to me. An absence of sexual feeling is a sexuality too. And so I would just love to invite everybody to imagine that self-love, full, true self-love means loving all parts of yourself, including your sexuality.
Absolutely.
And let's just not forget about that.
Yeah. And so the fun part is between Breathe Incorporated and Sparkling Survivor is, sometimes it is a little uncomfortable to get introduced to something like that. And that's where we can intuitively get to know you well enough to say, hey, this might be a need. Because sometimes we read in between the lines. A lot of times I find that I'm listening to people when I just close my lid. I know it's surprising. I can actually be quiet. It's weird. But a lot of times I spend my time listening. And when people are talking, most of the time they actually can recognize the things that they need. And they'll say it out loud. And I go, like, I'm going, you just said it. But they just maybe need that guidance of like Sparkling Survivor to, you know what? Let's just go ahead and try it. I'll go with you. And then if you want me to back out, I will get out of that scenario, but I will introduce you to a gentle form of like, let's, if this is a need that you have, how can we introduce that? because once you find that it's helpful to you, you aren't going to stop. And what all of our needs are very different at different times. And so if we get introduced to that in the moment what we need it, and we find there's value, is when the magic happens. And this is just one topic of introduction that we can make together between Breathe and Sparkling Survivor.
You bring up a great point, Shelley, because we know that when you're experiencing a cancer journey, you don't have extra money. The majority of people are barely getting by. They're scraping to try to figure out how they're going to put gas in their car, how they're going to pay for their treatments, and it's financially devastating. Oftentimes, you go from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. And so if you are out there and you have the ability to give this gift to someone else, we are also seeking corporate sponsorships, private sponsorships, because Shelley and my passion is first to cover your basic needs, but that's just scratching the surface. These types of things, these supportive services, these services that most people would not spend on themselves, are where the magic happens, where the transformation happens, where the healing happens. So I invite you as a donor to reach out to us. And we are happy to earmark any contribution specifically for something that you are also passionate about.
Right. If it's a specific topic choice or a specific endeavor, whether it's sexuality or otherwise, we're happy to put it into those spaces. And so, again, the needs are different for everybody, but they don't spend that time or money, and they're already indebted to that health system. So we understand that. So that's important to us as well.
So we definitely want to thank our guests.
Thank you guys
Thank you
so
so
much.
much
It's
for
been
all
so
that
much
you did,
fun.
It was so
Christine.
great.
Thank you for joining us today on Wine with Shelley
And Shelley.
We appreciate your support and listening to our amazing guest stories. This podcast is brought to you by
An oncology survivor nurse.
and an oncology social worker.
We both own organizations led by women who are making a real difference in the lives of cancer patients and their families. Breathe Incorporated and Sparkling Survivor LLC.
Remember, there are many ways to get involved and support the fight against cancer. You can donate to our organization, volunteer your time, or simply spread awareness about us.
And if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast to share your cancer journey, a caregiver story, or even your business's supportive services, please reach out.
We'll be back soon with another inspiring episode. In the meantime, be sure to check out our websites and follow us on social media.
And remember, together,
We can breathe.
and become sparkling survivors.